The sky above the camp was still full of smoke. Broken ships burned in the dark, and every few seconds, a small explosion flashed like distant lightning. The war was not truly over, but this battle was won. Human flags now hung over the alien city, over their towers of black stone and glass. The ground shook, sometimes as wrecked machines were dragged away. Sergeant Daniel Ward walked through the main street of the captured base. His boots heavy, his armor scratched and burned. He was tired in a way that sleep could not fix. His ears still rang from gunfire and ship cannons. Around him, other soldiers laughed too loudly, shouted victory songs, or just sat in the dust and stared at nothing. He passed a row of alien prisoners, all with their hands tied, guarded by human Marines. Some of the aliens had strange blue skin. Some had dark ridges on their heads. Some had metallic patterns on their arms and necks. They looked at the humans with hate or fear, or empty eyes that had seen too much. An officer called his name. "Sergeant Ward." "Over here." Daniel stopped and turned. Captain Rourke stood in front of a small storage building that now served as a command post. His white armor was clean. He had changed already, as if the battle was just a normal day at work. "Yes, sir," Daniel said, standing straighter. Rourke gave him a quick, sharp smile. "Good work out there. Your squad held the north gate when the aliens tried to break out." Command noticed that Daniel did not answer. He only nodded once. As a reward, Rourke went on, his voice light. "You get first pick of the spoils." 2 Marines dragged someone out of the shadow behind the captain. It was a woman. Not human, she was shorter than Daniel, with ash-gray skin that seemed almost silver under the camp lights. Her hair was black and cut short, with small metal rings braided close to the scalp. 2 thin ridges ran from her temples back along her skull, glowing faintly with a soft blue light. Her hands were tied in front of her. There were bruises on her arms and a cut along her cheekbone that had dried but not been cleaned. Her eyes were not empty. They burned. "She's one of their officer caste, we think," Rourke said. "Translator, maybe. High value. The others were very upset when we took her. That means she's important." Daniel looked at her. She stared right back, her jaw tight. There was no begging in her face, only cold anger and the kind of fear that refuses to show itself. "A war prize," the captain said, like it was a joke. "You earned it." Daniel felt something twist in his stomach. This did not feel like a prize. It felt like another weight thrown on his back. "I don't need," he began. Rourke cut him off. His eyes went hard for just a moment. "That you will. Take her, Sergeant. Command wants the troops to see the rewards of victory. It's good for morale." The Marines shoved the alien woman forward. She stumbled, almost fell, then caught herself and stood straight again. Her shoulders were shaking, but she still held her head high. "Yes, sir," Daniel said quietly. They handed him the end of the rope that bound her wrists. The rope felt rough and wrong in his hand. Without another word, he turned and walked. And the alien woman followed because she had no choice. He took her to a small room near the edge of the human camp. It used to be some kind of alien office. Now it was empty, except for a metal bed frame, a chair, and a table. The window was broken and covered with clear plastic. Outside, distant firelight flickered orange on the plastic sheet. Daniel untied the rope from his own hand and fixed it to a ring in the wall. He left her wrists bound, but loose enough that she could move them a little. She stood beside the bed and stared at the floor. He stepped back. The room felt too quiet. "I'm Daniel," he said after a moment. His voice sounded strange in his own ears. He was used to shouting orders, not talking softly like this. The alien woman did not answer. Her eyes stayed on the floor. He left without another word. When he came back an hour later, he carried a metal tray with food. It was standard camp rations, protein loaf, boiled grains, some pieces of fruit, and a bottle of water. It was not good food, but it was not bad either. It was what the soldiers ate. He set the tray on the table, then stepped back to the door. "Food," he said. "You need to eat." She did not move. He waited. 1 minute. 2, her eyes never left that same spot on the floor. He picked up a piece of fruit, bit into it, and chewed slowly so she could see. "Not poison," he said. Still nothing. Hours passed like this through the day. He came back with fresh food each time. The first tray stayed untouched. So did the second. He tried leaving the room so she could eat alone. When he returned, the food was still there, cold and full. A camp doctor came in the evening to check prisoners. He scanned her with a small device and frowned. "She hasn't had water since before we caught her," he said. "Another day, maybe 2, and she will be in real danger. Her organs will start to fail." Daniel's jaw tightened. "What can I do?" "Make her eat," the doctor said, as if it was simple. "Or she dies. Then your reward is just a corpse." He shrugged and moved on. Night fell outside. The sounds of the camp grew quieter, but never completely silent. Generators hummed. Distant voices laughed around fires. Somewhere, a soldier cried in his sleep. Daniel came back one more time. The room smelled faintly of metal and dust and uneaten food. The alien woman was still on the bed, in the same position, like a statue. Her lips were dry. Her eyes were darker. Now, with deep shadows under them, he set a fresh tray on the table. This time, he did not put it close to her or leave it by the door. He pulled the table away from the wall into the middle of the small room. Then he took one plate off the tray and put it there. Slowly, he walked around the table, not stopping. At the door, he sank down onto the floor across from her, his back against the other wall. He was tired of standing, tired of giving orders, even to himself. For a long time, he did nothing. He just sat there, legs stretched out, armor creaking softly. The food sat between them on the table, untouched. The only sound was the soft buzz of a broken light. Then, very gently, Daniel reached forward. He slid the plate so it rested exactly halfway between them, equal distance from his hand and from hers. He did not push it closer to her. He did not pull it closer to himself. He just left it in the middle, for the first time since he had seen her. The alien woman lifted her head, slowly. As if it hurt, she turned and looked directly at him. Her eyes met his over the simple, shared plate of food. And for a moment, the war outside the walls felt very far away. For a long moment, they only looked at each other over the plate. Her eyes were a deep, cool gray, almost silver in the dim light. Daniel felt like she was weighing him, measuring him, the same way soldiers measured targets on the battlefield. Then, as if she remembered where she was, she dropped her gaze again. The moment was gone. Daniel let out a slow breath he did not know he was holding. "I won't hurt you," he said, softly. "You know that, right?" She gave no sign that she heard him. He waited a little longer, but nothing changed. She did not move. She did not touch the food. At last, he pushed himself to his feet. His legs were stiff. He walked to the door and stopped there. "I'll come back," he said, "with fresh food." He stepped out and the door shut behind him with a dull metal sound. He came back early the next morning, before the camp was fully awake. The sky outside the plastic window was pale, almost white. Distant engines hummed as ships lifted, carrying wounded men and broken machines. The room smelled like old rations. The plate he had left between them was still there. The bread was dry now. The fruit had gone soft and dark. Nothing was missing. She sat on the bed in the same corner, arms around her knees, rope loose around her wrists. Her eyes were open, but dull with lack of sleep. "You didn't eat," Daniel said. He already knew the answer, but he said it anyway. No reply. He cleared the table, took away the old food, and set down a new tray. This time he chose softer bread, warm from the camp kitchen, and a sweeter drink mix instead of plain water. He sat down again on the floor, back to the wall like before. He picked up a piece of bread and bit into it. He chewed slowly so she could see. Crumbs fell to his lap. He wiped them away with his glove. See? Same food I eat. Same kitchen. No trick. Her eyes moved just a little, following his hand. She watched the bread, then his face, then the bread again. Her throat moved, like she swallowed, but she still did not reach out. He tried simple questions. Can you understand me? Do you have a name? Do you want water? Silence. The only sound was his own quiet eating and the faint hiss of air coming through the plastic sheet at the window. Later that day, the camp doctor came again. He checked her with his scanner, then gave Daniel a sharp look. She is worse, he said. Dehydration. Her heart rate is slow. You do not have many days, Sergeant. Maybe 2. Daniel felt a cold weight settle on his chest. There has to be something more we can do. The doctor shrugged. You are doing more than most. Others just leave their prisoners in a cage. He hesitated. She will not eat for you. They will take her to medical labs. Maybe they can keep her body alive there. But it will not be a good life. His eyes were tired. You know what those labs do? Daniel did know. He had seen reports. He had heard screams in the distance at other bases. He had told himself it was for the war. Right now, those words felt empty. After the doctor left, Captain Rourke stopped by the door. He did not come inside the room. He simply looked at the alien woman through the open doorway, then at the full tray on the table. That night, the camp grew quiet. Engines stopped. Voices faded. Only a few guards walked their rounds outside. The plastic over the window moved a little with the cold night wind. The small room was half dark, lit by a single weak lamp in the ceiling. Daniel stood up at last. His back hurt from sitting on the floor so long. I have to go, he said. They will start asking questions if I stay here all night. He pushed the plate a little closer to the bed, but not all the way to her. Then he stepped back to the door and opened it. He looked at her one last time. She sat curled on the bed, arms around her knees, eyes fixed on the food with a strange mix of hate and need. Eat if you want to live, he said softly. I don't want you to die here. She did not answer. He left the room and closed the door behind him. The lock clicked. His footsteps faded down the hall. For a long time after he was gone, the alien woman did not move. She listened, waited. When she was sure he would not return soon, she slowly uncurled her body. Her throat burned. Her head felt light. The smell of warm bread and fruit filled her nose and made her stomach twist in pain. She had never been this thirsty in her life. Her people taught that eating enemy food gave the enemy power over you. That you must rather die than bend. But there was another lesson too, one her mother had whispered when no priests were near. Live first, then decide how you will fight. Her hands shook as she slid off the bed. The rope on her wrists dragged on the floor. She took 2 slow steps to the table. The room felt like a ship on rough water. She stared at the plate, at the water bottle, at the piece of bread he had broken, the half he had left there for her. Very gently, like someone touching a wound, she reached out and took that half. Her fingers closed around it. No lightning came. No god struck her down. The enemy was not here to see, not here to own this choice. This was hers. She raised the bread to her mouth and took one small bite. It was dry. It was rough. It was the best thing she had ever tasted. She ate the rest in small, careful bites, as if someone might run in and take it away at any second. Then she picked up the water bottle, opened it with clumsy hands, and drank. The cool liquid hit her. Empty stomach, like a stone and a gift at the same time. Tears filled her eyes without her permission. When she was done, she put the empty bottle back in the same place. She pushed the plate so it sat again in the middle of the table. Then she went back to the bed, curled up, and closed her eyes. Sleep came quickly at last. Daniel came back at dawn. His heart beat faster as he opened the door. All night he had seen the same picture in his mind. Her lying on the floor, still and cold. He stepped into the room and froze. The plate on the table was empty. Only crumbs remained. The water bottle was dry. She had eaten. A slow breath left his chest. Something warm pushed against the heavy weight inside him. He did not smile. But the hard line of his mouth softened. She sat on the bed again, back to the wall, knees pulled up. Her eyes watched him closely now. Not the way a prisoner stared at a guard, but the way a hunter watched for the next move. "You ate," Daniel said. She did not nod. She did not speak, but she did not look away. He walked to the table, picked up a crumb between his fingers, and held it up. "This means you want to live," he said. "Good." He cleared the tray and left, then came back with a new one. Fresh bread, warm grain. Fruit in a small bowl. 2 bottles this time. He set the tray down and, as before, took 1 plate and 1 bottle for himself. He dragged the table so it stood between the bed and the chair. Then he sat in the chair, not at the door. They faced each other now across the food. Daniel opened his bottle and took a slow drink. Then he broke his bread again. This time he did not push her half away. He left it in the center of the plate. "You can eat while I'm here," he said. "I will not stop you. I will not tell anyone how you did it." For a while, nothing happened. He began to eat, not fast, not slow, just normal. He made each move clear and calm. Bite, chew, swallow, drink. He did not talk. He did not watch her every second. He looked at the wall, at the window, at the floor. He tried to make the room feel less like a prison and more like something else. He did not know the right word. Halfway through his bread, he saw her hand. Move. Her fingers slid along the bed frame, then to the edge. Her feet touched the floor. She stood up, swayed a little, then took 1 small step toward the table. Daniel kept his eyes on his own plate. He did not want to scare her back to the bed. Another step. And another. He could hear her breathing now, thin and fast. He could feel the heat of her body in the small space. Her hand reached out. This time, she did not stop halfway. She picked up the other half of the bread. Daniel did not speak. He took another bite of his own half, slow and normal. She raised her piece and bit. Her face changed at the first taste. Some tight line around her mouth loosened. She took another bite, a little larger, then another. Soon the bread was gone. She licked a small crumb from her thumb, then froze as if she had done something shameful. Her eyes jumped to his face, waiting for something. A joke. A smile. A trap. Daniel just nodded once. "Good," he said. "Your body needs food." Her lips moved. No sound came at first. Then, rough and low, in broken human words, she spoke for the first time. "Why?" she asked. It was only 1 word, but it filled the whole room. Daniel blinked. "Why? What?" She struggled with the language. The words came slow, like stones, pulled from deep water. "Why you sit?" She pointed at the chair. "Why you share?" She touched the center of the table. Her eyes were sharp now. Enemy no sit, enemy take, enemy. Break. She searched for the last word. Own. Daniel understood. "Why are you not like the others?" He leaned back in his chair and looked at her across the table. She was still thin, still bruised, still tied by the rope on her wrists. But now there were crumbs at the corner of her mouth and a question in her eyes. "Because I'm tired," he said at last, using simple words. "Tired of taking. Tired of breaking. I don't want another dead body. I want someone alive. Someone who can choose." She stared at him, trying to see if these words were true. Far above them, unseen, a small camera in the corner of the ceiling watched everything. Its tiny red light blinked on and off in another part of the base. In a dark room full of screens, an officer leaned forward in his chair and pressed pause. The image on the screen froze. Daniel and the alien woman sitting at the same table, facing each other like two people, not soldier and prize. The officer frowned. "This is going to cause trouble," he murmured. Then he hit play and kept watching. The days began to form a pattern. Every morning and every evening, Daniel came to the small room with a tray. He always brought 2 plates, 2 bottles. He always sat down, not by the door, but at the table or in the chair. He always ate when she ate. She still would not touch food unless he was there. At first, she took only bread and water. Then, slowly, she tried the fruit, the grains, a small piece of cooked meat. Her hands still shook sometimes, but the wild, sharp hunger in her eyes began to fade. Her words came slow, broken, but they came. "Bread," she would say, pointing. "Water. Chair. Door." Daniel answered with care. "Yes, bread." He would point. "In my language, bread." He pointed to himself, "Daniel." He pointed to her and waited. For a long time, she did not answer. Then, one evening, after they finished a meal, she spoke very quietly. "Kara," she said, touching her own chest with the tips of her fingers. Daniel repeated it. "Kara." The name sounded strange and soft in the small, hard room. She watched his mouth shape the word. A little line at the corner of her lips moved, almost like the beginning of a smile, but it was gone too fast to be sure. "Daniel," she said, as if testing the weight of his name. She did not say sergeant or enemy or human. Just Daniel. Time passed like that. Food, small words, small steps. One evening, the sky outside the window was the color of old metal. A storm rumbled far away. Faint lightning lit the clouds behind the plastic sheet. Daniel sat with his elbows on the table. Kara sat across from him, her rope still around her wrists, but now it lay loose on the table edge. She no longer kept herself pressed to the far corner of the bed. He had brought a small thing with him. It was a thin metal square, old and scratched. He set it on the table and pushed it toward her. She looked at it, then at him. "It's a picture," he said. "A photo, my family." Before the war, he tapped the corner and the surface lit up. A woman's face appeared, smiling. A little boy stood in front of her, holding a toy ship. Behind them, trees and a blue sky. Kara stared at the picture like it was some kind of magic. "Your nest?" she asked, searching for a word. "Home," Daniel said. "Yes, my home." She pointed. "At the woman, mate." He nodded once. "My wife. Her name is Lena." She pointed at the boy. "Small one. Your spawn." "Son," Daniel said, and this time his voice was softer. "His name is Ben." Kara looked from the picture to Daniel's face. She seemed to be trying to fit this new image into the shape of what she knew about humans. "My people," she said slowly, "tell stories. Long ago. Stories of your kind." She made a circle with her hand to mean humans. Iron men from the dark. Burn worlds. Take. Slaves. Eat hearts. She touched her chest when she said that last part. Daniel gave a short, dry laugh. "We don't eat hearts," he said. Then the laugh died. but we do burn worlds. Sometimes. He turned the photo off and slipped it back into his pocket. It was too bright, too much from another life.
Lieutenant Keene stepped fully into the room and let the door slide shut behind him. The small space felt even smaller with him in it. He was not in armor. He wore a dark duty uniform, neat and sharp, with a small data tablet in one hand. His hair was cut short, his eyes a pale cold blue that missed nothing. Daniel stood up at once. "Sir." Keene's gaze moved from Daniel to Kara, then to the empty plates on the table. "Interesting scene," he said quietly. "Our sergeant and his prize sharing dinner, talking about stopping something." He looked back at Daniel. "Stop who, Sergeant Ward?" Daniel's mouth was dry. He chose his words with care. "Sir, I was trying to make her talk," he said. "She doesn't say much. I was pushing. Trying to get her to say something useful. About their forces. Standard interrogation by trust." Keene raised one eyebrow. "Is that what this is?" He walked to the table and picked up one of the bottles. He turned it slowly in his fingers, then set it down again. "And did she say anything useful?" he asked. Daniel forced his shoulders to stay relaxed. "Very little, sir. Just stories, myths. She doesn't trust us." Across the table, Kara sat very still. Her face was blank now, her eyes lowered. But Daniel could tell she was listening to every sound. Keene turned to her. He spoke in clear trade speech, the common tongue between species. "Do you understand me, prisoner?" he asked. Kara's eyes flicked up for a moment, then down again. She said nothing. "Not very talkative, is she?" Keene said, switching back to human English. "Strange. The cameras show her moving her mouth quite a lot when you're alone." Daniel's heart skipped. "Cameras, sir?" Keene tapped the ceiling with 2 fingers. "This is a military base, Sergeant, not a hotel. Every room with a high-value prisoner has eyes and ears. You know that." He looked at Kara again. "I am intelligence," he said slowly, in trade speech. "My work is to unlock minds, to find secrets. If you have anything that can help end this war, you will tell me. You understand?" Kara did not move, but her hands tightened just a little where the rope lay on the table. Keene watched her for a few seconds in silence. Then he turned back to Daniel. "You have done something unusual here," he said. "You made her eat. That is useful. A dead prisoner is no use to anyone." His voice stayed calm, but there was a thin, hard line in it now. "But remember, Sergeant, she is not your friend. She is a resource, and resources belong to command." Daniel met his gaze. "Yes, sir." Keene nodded once. "You have 24 hours. After that, she comes to my section. We will handle the rest." He walked to the door, then paused with his hand on the panel. "Oh," he added without looking back, "and if you hear her mention anything about weapons, sectors, or last chances again, you will report it, directly, immediately. Is that clear?" Daniel felt Kara's eyes on him. He answered anyway. "Clear, sir." The door slid open. Keene left. The room felt colder when he was gone. That night Daniel could not sleep. He lay on his bunk, staring at the dark ceiling, listening to the soft beeps and hums of the base systems. Keene's words turned in his head. So did Kara's last son, Burns all. No sky left. At last he got up and went to the operations room. The duty officer on watch waved him in without question. Daniel had enough rank to see general battle plans. He stood in front of a large holomap. Stars and lines glowed in the air, blue symbols for human ships, red for alien forces. He zoomed into the sector where their base sat. There it was, a curved line drawn in red, deeper inside enemy space. Beyond that line, arrows of blue light pushed forward. A date blinked next to the arrows. The offensive would begin soon. He checked the numbers. The line on the map lay exactly where Kara had described with her hands. A net of fire under space. He felt sick. If she was right, then every ship past that red curve would be flying into the mouth of a dead star. He knew what he should do. As a soldier, report all this, say nothing about her trust, hand her to intelligence. Let the chain of command decide. He also knew what that meant. She would go to the labs, to Keen's rooms. They would pull every word from her, with or without kindness. And command might still ignore the warning, calling it enemy bluff. He saw his son's face in his mind. Ben with his toy ship, laughing in the sunlight of a world that could burn if this war grew bigger. Daniel closed his eyes, then opened them again. His choice was waiting. He went to Captain Rourke just before shift change. Rourke sat behind a desk piled with reports. He looked tired, but his eyes were still sharp. "Make it quick, Ward," he said. "We move out soon." "Sir," Daniel sighed. "I have a concern about the planned push into Sector 47, Rourke frowned. "What kind of concern?" Daniel did not mention Kara by name. He did not talk about shared bread or trust. He kept his words cold. "Possible enemy trap, sir," he said. "I believe there may be a large hidden weapon grid near that line. Something big. Something our scans did not see." Rourke sat up. "Straighter. On what intel?" Daniel held his gaze. "Fragmented prisoner talk. Patterns in their troop movements. It's not solid proof, but it fits. If we rush the fleet in without deeper scans, we might walk into a kill zone." Rourke drummed his fingers on the table. "You're suggesting we delay the offensive," he said slowly. "Based on a hunch and prisoner talk?" "I'm suggesting we be careful, sir," Daniel said. "At least send more recon. If we are wrong, we lose time. If we are right, we save thousands of lives." Rourke looked at the map display on his wall, then back at Daniel. "Command will not like this," he said. "They want a strong move. They want to win on the news feeds. They do not want fear. But they do want victory, sir," Daniel said. "And victory is not flying into a hidden gun," Rourke sighed. "All right, I'll send it up. No promises." His eyes narrowed. "And the prisoner? This fragmented talk? From her?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "Yes, sir. From her, but she didn't give details. Just hints." Rourke nodded slowly. "Then intelligence will want a closer look. Keen already filed a request. Your alien goes to his section within the hour." The words hit Daniel like a punch. "Sir, that's an order, Sergeant," Rourke said, voice now hard. "You brought us something maybe useful. Good. Now the grown-ups take it from here." Dismissed. When Daniel returned to the small room, Kara was already standing. She looked at his face once and read enough. "You told them," she said in her rough English. "I had to warn them," he said. "If I say nothing, everyone dies." Her eyes were dark. "And me?" He opened his mouth to answer, but the door slid open behind him. Two soldiers stood there, rifles on their shoulders. "Orders from intelligence," one said. "Prisoner. Transfer." They stepped in and moved to Kira. One took the rope at her wrists. The other put a hand on her arm. She did not fight. She just kept her eyes on Daniel. "This way," the soldier said to her as they pulled her toward the door. An alarm suddenly shrieked through the base. Red lights flashed along the ceiling. A voice spoke over the loudspeakers, tense and fast. "Attention all units. Unknown vessel has entered the outer defense perimeter. Repeat. Unknown vessel at system edge. All combat personnel to stations." The soldiers hesitated, then tightened their grips. Kara's gaze burned into Daniel's. "Is this your answer?" she asked, voice low. "You give me to them. And they still fly to die?" The door closed between them, cutting off his reply. The siren screamed through the base. Red lights flashed on the ceiling. Men ran in the halls. Metal boots hit the floor in a fast, hard rhythm. Daniel stood in the corridor where they had taken Kara. For a second he could not move. His mind was split in two: unknown ship. System Edge, Kara. Intelligence. Last Sun, a squad pushed past him toward the armory. One of the soldiers called over his shoulder, "Ward." "Combat stations. Let Intel handle the prisoner." Daniel turned and ran the other way. Kara's world had become white light and cold metal. They had taken her to a different wing. No plastic window here, no small bed. Just a bright room with a metal chair fixed to the floor and a narrow table of steel. Lieutenant Keen stood by a wall screen, watching data scroll past. Two guards stood behind Kara, rifles ready. Her wrists were locked into a hard metal bar fixed to the chair. The alarm still rang. The red light flickered in the corner. "What is that ship?" Keen asked without turning. He spoke in trade speech. Now clear and sharp. "Is it your rescue?" Kara watched the back of his head. "No rescue," she said. "Trigger." Keen looked at her then. "Trigger for what?" She pressed her lips together. Keen sighed and nodded to one of the guards. The man stepped forward with a small black device in his hand. It had thin wires and a dull, ugly weight. "Do you know what this is?" Keen asked her. Kara did not answer. "It talks to your nerves," he said. "Very fast, very loud. You will not like the conversation. I would rather not use it, so answer my question." On the wall, the ship's image appeared. A pale dot at the edge of the system, with lines of numbers around it. It did not move like a hunting ship. It drifted, slow and steady. Kara stared at the screen. Her face lost some color. "Trigger ship," she said at last. "If your guns touch it, it screams to Last Sun, wakes the fire." Keen's eyes narrowed. "Can we destroy it before it sends the signal?" She shook her head. "First attack is the key. First touch, if you fire, it speaks. And your people?" He asked. "Can they call it off?" "Maybe," she said. "If someone speaks our code in the right way. If the net still listens. And who can do that?" Kara lifted her bound hands as far as the bar allowed. "I can try," she said. Keen watched her for a long, quiet moment. The numbers glowed red on the screen. Kara's hands were flat on the console now. The blue light in the ridges along her head burned bright, like a thin crown of fire. Riaz stood by the door, rifle half raised. Sweat ran down his neck. "Daniel." Watch the timer, 0 hours 0 minutes and 2 seconds. He could hear his own heart beating. He could hear Kara's fast, shallow breathing. Outside, the siren still cried, a long metal scream, on the wall speaker. Keen's voice was tight. "Report, link room." "What is happening?" Kara did not answer him. Her eyes were locked on the code. Symbols poured down the screens in alien script. To Daniel it looked like rain rushing past a window. To Kara it was language, law, command. "Last Sun," she whispered. In her own tongue. "Hear me. This is Kara of the High Hall. Code bearer. I changed the key." Her fingers moved in a strange rhythm. Short taps, long presses. Then both hands held still for a moment as she spoke one long line of sound, a phrase. She had never thought she would use. Daniel did not understand the words, but he understood the way she said them. It was the voice of someone giving an order that could not be taken back. 0 hours 0 minutes and 1 second. The sound in the room dropped, as if the air was holding its breath. On the main screen, the unknown ship flared with light. Its power reading spiked, then shook. The timer froze at 0 hours 0 minutes and 1 second. A thin crack of light ran across the numbers. Then the display flickered. The timer vanished. The ship's glow faded from bright to weak. Its energy pattern broke apart, then settled into a low, slow pulse. A new symbol appeared next to it, an alien code, glowing soft blue. Kara sagged forward. Daniel caught her before she hit the floor. Her skin was cold and damp with sweat. The blue lines along her skull were dim again. On the wall, Keen's voice came fast. "Control intel? Status of the unknown vessel?" Another voice answered, full of shock. Intel. This is control. The unknown just powered down. All high energy readings gone. And sir, we're seeing a collapse of some kind of field across the whole sector. Massive grid effect just blinked out. Keen, explain. Control. I don't know how, sir. But whatever was waiting for us out there, it's not active now. Our long-range scans just opened up like someone took a blanket off the sky. Daniel held Kara's shoulders and spoke softly. Kara, can you hear me? Her eyes opened a crack. Her voice was barely there. It sleeps, she whispered. Last sun sleeps. I broke the first key. Now it waits for a new song it will never hear. Her head fell against his chest. He held her up. Minutes later, the link room doors slid open. Captain Rourke stepped in, armor on, helmet under his arm. Keen was behind him now, face pale but controlled. 2 more guards waited in the hall. Rourke's eyes went straight to the screens, then to Kara in Daniel's arms. Is it true? He asked. She did this? Keen nodded once. She talked to their trigger ship. Our scans confirm a large-scale energy web was active and then shut down. I don't like it, but the simplest answer is yes. She saved our fleet. Reyes lowered his rifle slowly. Some of the fear went out of his eyes. Rourke let out a long breath. Command just called the attack off, he said. They want a full review. They want to know how close we came to flying into a graveyard. His gaze fell to Kara again. And they want everything she knows in a file on their desk. He looked at Daniel. Intel will take her now. Proper debrief. You're done here. Sergeant. Daniel felt Kara stir. Even half-conscious, she tensed at those words. He shifted his grip so she could lean against the console instead of him. But he did not step away. With respect, sir, Daniel said, his voice steady. If she goes to a lab now after this, it will kill any chance we have. Rourke frowned. Chance for what? For something better than the next war, Daniel said. She could have let us die. She didn't. That means there is someone on the other side who will listen to her. We have to answer that. Keen studied Daniel's face. This time there was no mockery in his eyes. Only calculation and something like respect. He's not wrong, Keen said quietly. If word of this ever reaches their command and they hear we tortured the one who stopped their weapon, it closes doors we might need later. Rourke rubbed a hand over his face. The war lines there seemed deeper. So what? He asked. We make her, what? A guest. An asset, Keen said. A protected witness, a possible envoy. He met Daniel's gaze. Under my section, Keen added, and under Ward's watch. No one touches her without our sign-off. Rourke looked between them, then at Kira. Her eyes were open now, watching him without fear. Fine, he said at last. But if this goes wrong, it's on both of you. He turned to the door. I'll tell command the truth. They may not like it, but they'll like dying even less. He left. The extra guards followed Dot in the small room. The red alarm finally cut off. The base hummed with a new sound. People talking, questioning, realizing they were still alive. Kara tried to stand. Her legs failed. Daniel moved to help her. You are very loud people, she murmured. Even when you almost die, you shout. Daniel gave a tired, small smile. We're not good at being quiet. She looked up at him. You trusted me, she said, completely. No rope, no gun. Why? Daniel thought of the first time he sat with her, of the bread between them on the table, of the night she chose to live. Because someone had to, he said. And because you trusted me first when you ate. Her lips curved, just a little. Strange Iron Man, she said. Then she let her head rest on his shoulder and closed her eyes. Weeks later, the war was not over, but it was no longer racing toward the edge of the last sun. Both sides had felt that hidden fire move and withdraw. Both sides had pulled ships. Back, sent more scouts, asked more questions. Messages had crossed the dark between stars. Careful words. Small tests. No one said peace yet. But they had started to say talk. In a wide meeting room on the human flagship, a long table stood under soft lights. One side held human officers and diplomats. The other side held aliens in gray and blue. Their own guards waiting by the walls. At the center of the alien side sat Kara. She wore no rope now. A light band on her wrist marked her as a protected person under human law. The blue lines along her head were calm. Not burning. In front of her was a plate with human bread and a small bowl of food from her own world, brought from the first supply ship that dared cross the line. The door at the back of the room opened. Daniel stepped in, his armor swapped for a simpler uniform. He paused, feeling many eyes on him, human and alien both. Kara turned. When she saw him, her face changed. The hard lines of duty loosened. She gave him a quiet smile that only he truly understood. He crossed the room and sat in the empty chair beside her. Some officers frowned. Keen, watching from the side, said nothing. A human server placed another plate on the table. Between Daniel and Kara, bread. For a moment, no one spoke. Then without a word, Kara reached out and slid the plate so it rested in the middle, equal distance from them both. Share? She said. Daniel nodded. Share. He broke the bread in half. He kept one piece and set the other on the plate, not closer to him, not closer to her. Around them, translators warmed up. Holographic maps blinked on. The first true talks between their peoples were about to begin. But at that table, for a heartbeat, there were no ranks, no flags. Just two former enemies, sitting side by side, eating from the same plate, in a room full of watching eyes. Far outside the window, human and alien ships floated in the same sky, their guns quiet for now. The war had not ended with a bigger gun or a louder shout. It had changed when one human soldier chose to treat his war prize like a person and sat down at her table.